welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I am here with my bestie, Savana Lanausse.
Woo! 99 episodes!
99 episode and a B81. Sorry.
We're close. We're close.
I couldn't. But yeah, so today for episode 99, we're actually going to be doing our 2023 movie recap, things that we saw. And then we have our 100 episode special coming up the week after. So we're getting consistent again. Knock on wood, knock on wood.
Yes, we are. We're doing really good.
So we were kind of talking about this before we started recording, you know, because we have a little list and stuff of things that we've drafted. And I was telling Savanna that for me, at least, this year was like a palate cleanser for movies. I did not nearly see as many movies as I normally see due to, you know, uninterest at times, but also I'd probably say from September to December, like early December, I was kind of down and out because I was going through health issues that literally just kept me in bed all day and like sleeping. So in terms of like movies that came out then, I ended up missing quite a few of like the big blockbusters and things like that as well. But Savannah, like, how would you describe 2023 in like years of movies for you? Like, what did you think of what 2023 offered?
I don't think it was a bad year. I actually liked more this year than I did last year. However, I think unfortunately with the strike, it kind of did skew our like movie going habits. I feel like everything, like I watched half of my list in the last 2 months because there was a gap for me, a huge gap from I think the summer to literally like a month ago where like I was not watching a lot of new movies. So I don't think it was a bad year. I think there were a lot of fun movies. I think however, I will say, in my opinion, I feel like you had to go a little bit out of your way in some of the movies to find some gems. Obviously we had our big movies. We had the Barbies and Oppenheimer, which is awesome. But I feel like for, the smaller movies or the less popular movies, they're the gems of this year. So I feel like it was definitely a year you had to go out of your way to see movies, for sure.
Yeah. And I think also, too, one thing that also I don't think people realize how much it impacted the theaters, especially for us. So typically, we actually go see a movie theater. Like we go to a movie theater that is on Disney property. So that definitely sways what is typically shown at that movie theater. And one thing I can tell you was like a lot of the movies that I had wanted to see in theater, I couldn't see because the Disney movie theater had like 15 showings of the Taylor Swift documentary or music, whatever it was, for like 2 months straight.
No, and but to be honest, I can't 100% blame them because I'm sure like they are just focused on like, it's just profit. Like, unfortunately, I know we wanted to see a movie called Monster. I think it was a Japanese film.
Yeah.
Literally 3 showings, like just 3 showings.
Yeah, and like it would be like at the worst times, it would be at either like 4 p.m. or 11:30 at night. Like, dog, come on, like, come on.
Yeah, so this is what I mean. I feel like you definitely had to go out of your way for most of the movies this year, most of them. I think it's just like if you caught it, great. If you didn't, then sucks. Now you gotta wait.
And a lot of the movies too, at least in my opinion, also had really, really like, and I think we compare it to like stuff like Oppenheimer and Barbie that was literally available to be seen for like 2 months after it first came out. But a lot of like the smaller movies, I think were maybe only playing like 2 weekends and then we're gone. Like there was a lot of movies I'm like, oh yeah, is this still showing? No, stopped showing like a month ago. And I'm like, oh, I thought it just came out though. Like I felt like that a lot, specifically with like The Boy and the Heron, Zone of Interest, and Anatomy of a Fall were movies I was really, really keen. They also happened to like be showing when I had finals. And then the minute I was like done with school, they were all gone from the theater.
Yeah, so I think that's important to mention. We did not see The Boy and the Heron. We did not see Anatomy of a Fall. And we did not see the other one you just mentioned. Why am I blinking? The other one.
The Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. I didn't see Iron Claw. I didn't see American Fiction. So if you see there are things missing from our list, we didn't see them. It's not that we, have anything against them. We just didn't see the main hitters
Yeah,
at the end of the
and
month.
I also like to remind people that Savannah is in a master's program. I'm in a doctorate program. And listen, this year was all video games for me. And that's okay, but also it's kind of ridiculous how many video games. I think also it was just way more accessible, especially with my health issues that happened.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was the best way for me to get entertainment and to get like stories and stuff like that. Because, with video games, you can kind of pause at any time. So, it's not like a TV show where sometimes I feel like with TV shows, you don't want to pause midway through and pick it up again. You want to complete the episode. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, with my sleepiness issue, and essentially to kind of elaborate what type of issue I'm talking about, I'm going for a narcolepsy diagnosis. So, as you can imagine, in and out of sleep consistently. And so, video games just became more accessible to me. So, at the end of this, when we talk about movies and, TV shows and what we do want to see within the next few upcoming weeks, I'm going to go through the video games that I've played because I played 30 freaking video games this year.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, yeah, since that makes sense. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start. So give me a movie that you saw and tell me what you thought of it. Like a quick recap, and maybe
Yeah.
we could do a little like a very loose sliding scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being the best movie you saw. And let's do best movie you saw of the year, and 1 being like I wish I could forget it.
Oh gosh. Okay.
I know for you, you're probably going to have a lot of things on the scale, like a lot of different points. I think for me, looking at my stuff, I think everything is going to be like all the movies that I saw in theaters this year were genuinely good and positive experiences. But I know you did not have some good and positive experiences with
Well,
some films.
we'll get into it because they are popular films that it just didn't jive with. So I'm very, yeah, I'm very curious to see how this is gonna go. Since I do have 9 movies I want to talk about, I will probably just kind of quickly go through them,
Yeah, go ahead.
just so we all have time. So my first one, and this is not really any particular order. I just kind of wrote them down from memory. Um, this came out, I think, earlier last year. The "Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret" adaptation.
Okay. And
Really
I
cute.
heard of it and I heard good things about it, but what did you think?
It was really cute, and it was a really good adaptation from the book. I feel like a lot of girls read the book, at least when I was growing up, and I did. And I loved it. It was fun. It was coming of age. It was simple, and I don't think it got enough credit because it was like I feel like movies that come out before May don't get a lot of love. Like nobody remembers them because they come out so early in the year. But I genuinely like this one, and I recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Let's now that I'm looking at my list, I think I have 2 movies, maybe 1 movie that you haven't seen. So why don't you just go through and I'll just chime in because I think 2 of the films we saw together, and I only have 4 movies on my list.
Okay.
So
So
you start going through yours, and I'll chime in when I can say something.
I'll do 2 at a time. Maybe that'll even it out.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Next one, John Wick 4.
Okay, you told me about how good it was. I told you, and I hate to say this, but I actually have not seen a John Wick film, and I want to. So that has been added to my list. But for John Wick movies, how did this stand up to the rest?
I really liked John Wick in general. This is probably, I don't know if it's my favorite John Wick film, but it's really great. It stands alone. For somebody that likes video games, I do think you would really like this movie because of all the action sequences. The characters are really good. Bill Skarsgård is a villain in the
That's
movie.
another big reason why I want to see it, because I really love him as an actor.
So if you like action, if you follow the John Wick character, you definitely have to see it. But it is literally 2.5 hours of action sequences, but you're not bored. You're not just like, okay, when are they gonna stop hitting each other? And there's a good story involved. I really recommend it. It was a really fun time at the theater. I'm glad I saw it in theaters. It was really fun. Um, And I feel like it, for action movies, it could be very hit or miss for
Hmm.
me. But I really love this, and it was just a fun movie you could watch with everybody. You could just turn it on and like just have fun. So of course Keanu Reeves is a big plus. He's great.
Yeah.
Cast was great. The film, it's beautiful. All the sequences, everywhere they filmed is amazing, gorgeous. So please, yeah,
Okay.
recommendation.
Okay. It's getting added to the list. Lay me another movie that you've seen.
Let me see. Let me look on my list. I really enjoyed Mission Impossible 6. Is it 6 or 5? Probably 6. I think
I
it's
think
6.
6.
I really enjoyed it. I am a Mission Impossible girl. I will say, I think the one with Henry Cavill was still my favorite. But again, it's a lot of fun in the theater. These movies are so fun. They're so big. They're so grand. Um, Kind of like John Wick, like it's fun to follow this character. It's fun to see his journey. Really good cast. Wasn't my favorite, but again, really awesome viewing. You can watch this with anybody. You will not be bored. Um, Beautiful landscapes, a lot of action. It's the also I think the next one is like the end for sure too.
Yeah, because looking at the name of it, it was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So
Yes.
subsequently, there will be a part 2. Do you think that the series should close with the next one?
Yes. Not Tom Cruise is still like amazing for 60-year-old. I don't know, like he's literally jumping off trains. That train sequence in the movie was real. There's
Hmm.
so many parts of the movie that are like practical, which again, credit to him because I don't really love when people say this, but like nobody is making movies the way he is making movies still.
Yeah, he's kind
So
of morphed into like the Jackie Chan of this generation, where he's just really putting himself in
yeah,
it and just really bringing it to the next level in terms of action.
100%. But I think end it while the iron is hot. I think if they were to go like Mission Impossible 10, they're going to run into like the Fast and Furious issue. Not to compare the two because I Fast and Furious does need to like die, but personally they're
Hmm.
on number 12 with that. But I think they're going to run into an issue where people are getting bored. And at the end of the day, he is 60, right? I don't know how many more years, hopefully more, but I don't know how many realistically he can jump off of buildings and like jump onto moving trains and stuff. So I think ending it while he's still at a good height in his career and just wrapping up the story, best case scenario for the series. But it is such a lot of fun, and it's just another action movie I had a really good time at the theater with. Amazing.
Yeah, it's also one of those things too where he has to consider, he's getting older and, not that he can't do the stuff that he's doing, but in case something goes wrong, it makes it so much more incredibly difficult to come back from it. And even though he is like a master in terms of action work and stuff, I think
Yeah.
at a certain age, you have to realize you either have to slow down, or if you don't want to accept the fact that you're slowing down, you just have to like retire the notion. I genuinely, for Tom Cruise's, like the rest of his career and stuff, I would love to see a shift in more drama. I would love to see him
Oh,
do
for
some
sure.
like kind of go back into like when he was doing like period pieces and things like that. I would love to see that shift in his career again, or just plainly like see him try something new. I think he just tries really hard and like puts everything into a role, and I've even loved him in like comedy roles like in Tropic Thunder. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like really excited to see, because I'm not the biggest Mission Impossible fan. I'm just not the biggest action
Yeah, that's fair.
like franchise fan. Like I'm not a Fast and Furious girl. I'm
No,
not
no.
a Mission Impossible. John Wick, maybe that might be the exception for me. But I'm just not a franchisee person. So I really want to see like where he goes from here.
100%. I couldn't agree more with that. I really liked him in specifically Interview with the Vampire. That's kind
Yeah.
of like he was so good in that movie. But yeah, I don't know, as he gets older, I feel like that might be the way for him to go. So okay, give me a movie. I did 3 or
Okay,
4.
so I'm gonna save some of the big ones for
Yeah.
last, but one that I did see, I saw it at home. I didn't see it in the theater, but it did come out in 2023, and I really enjoyed it. Was Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
I
one.
love Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it is the best in terms of superhero movies because I really just enjoyed the cast and everything. I thought this one was very funny. I feel like sometimes Marvel movies and DC movies have a really hard time kind of melting in comedy and action. There's just something about Guardians of the Galaxy that does it a little bit more smoothly and naturally compared to like something like Ant-Man. You know, it just feels like it flows so much more easily. Like I think it's because they have established from the get-go characters who were never fully serious to begin with, like Peter Quill. So I really like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yes, I cried with the rocket scenes and everything. So sad, but I was happy that they were able to experiment with something like that and bring something very different for a Marvel film.
Yeah.
I loved it, and I will say though, I did not love it as much as I loved Guardians of the Galaxy 2 because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did not have Kurt Russell in it, and I'm just gonna have to leave that there.
Oh yeah. I liked Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but for me it's not something I can rewatch because I was very sad. Most of
Yeah.
the movie, I sad animals are hard for me. When I see like, especially first of all, they're fake too. So like Paula was just like, they're not even animals. I'm like, doesn't matter. So, but I loved the Rocket arc for sure. I think just seeing where it came from was a really good storylines, and then like wrapping it all up was really good.
And I think something that needs to be pointed out, because I feel like it always goes under the radar, is we all know Bradley Cooper is an excellent actor, but he is an incredible voice actor to play Rocket and really
Oh
convey
yeah.
the emotions of like I think Bradley Cooper's like some of his I think like and I'm not trying to diss Bradley Cooper's career at all. I think he's an incredible actor, but I do think like him voicing Rocket is like some of his best work. He really just nails it and sells it. And even like when Rocket is like screaming and like mourning for his friends, like I think that's the reason why it's so sad. Not only because you're seeing it, but because like his voice, like you hear like the vocal strain when he's crying and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's really difficult to have us, you know, it's one thing to have like a realistic, you know, pet pass away and stuff, but these were kind of, and they did look realistic, but these were more anthropomorphic, I think is the correct word.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a little bit easier to separate yourself from, you know, thinking of Rocket as like an actual entity. But man, like I think the voice acting that Bradley Cooper does for Rocket is really underrated.
No, I felt like it was real. I felt like
Yeah.
he sold it for sure. But no, it was a solid. I think it was a solid wrap up to the franchise. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't want any more though. I feel like if they try any more, and you
I
know,
yeah, no, it's
I would
done.
be down for like a Rocket spinoff where it's just Rocket alone because I feel like it's okay to like a Rocket like TV show spinoff. If Disney wanted to do that, I think would be really fun and cute. But I think in terms of, I think a lot of people collectively are kind of done with the superhero films. I think we need to go on to something else. I think they've, you know, they've been running their course for like 12, 15 years now at this point. So I think like now I'm really hoping you know, Marvel and DC takes a step back. I know it sounds crazy, but I hope they take a step back from superhero movies and try out something new and different.
I think it's just fatigue. I think they got too carried away with it. I especially saw it after like Spider-Man, I think the multiverse
Yeah.
Spider-Man, they definitely took advantage of how much people were excited and loved it. And they put out just a bunch of stuff, and it really just it's fatigue. I can't keep up anymore. And I feel like people feel the same way, especially with
Yeah. And the
newer
actors
shows.
too. Like I'm sure that these actors are wanting to do something different
Sure.
and expand, but you know, they're being held down to a role like Robert Downey Jr., you know, was held down to Iron Man for
Yeah.
years and years and years. And now we finally get to see him in roles like Oppenheimer and things like that, where he can really shine. And so, you know, I think it's okay that they kind of distance themselves. Like, I think about when the Disney streaming platform launched. WandaVision was incredible. I'm okay with getting Marvel-y and superhero content like that if I'm getting it like every 2 to 3 years and they're giving me the best that they can, like a quality like WandaVision, you know?
100%. Just space it out and make it like good quality. I feel like they're just rushing a lot of it. And they're also just not, oh my goodness. Sorry, my phone rang. They're also just not, I feel like, listening to the fan base. Maybe they are now because I don't know, they keep giving us things that we did not ask for.
Yeah, like I feel like Ant-Man was already a pretty weak. I say Ant-Man because I think like there was literally an Ant-Man sequel and like no one heard about it. And it came out in 2023. So,
Yeah.
and like they're doing like some stuff with like I think it's Brie Larson's character. And I'm just not it just feels very forced. It feels very cash grabby. You know, so same with DC too. Like DC doing, I also still think it was a crappy thing to do, even though it wasn't as bad as I had thought it was going to be. That newer, I think it's Justice League movie with Ezra Miller and things like that. You know, community scarer Ezra Miller. You know,
Community
the
hero.
man
Yes.
underneath your bed, or I'm sorry, the they them underneath your bed, who scares you in the middle of the night, like that's I think they really messed up with doing
Well,
that.
they
That was a Warner
released the
Brothers issue.
Flash. They released the Flash and then Aquaman 2, which nobody wanted at that point.
No one
I
wants.
I couldn't believe. I
They
understand like they
really are
probably
just like we're casting villains in real life and just putting them as the
I you,
heroes.
I kind of feel bad for them. I kind of feel like it's not because I think they I don't know what happened, but I think they filmed both of these movies or started to film or had some kind of contract with the actors before the events took place. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm just like, dude, everybody got screwed. And then I assume they have to release because of the money and the people involved.
Well, and also it just
Sucks.
happened with Jonathan Majors. Jonathan Majors
Yeah,
was
that
set to be the front
sucks.
runner of this brand new, intense Marvel movie and everything. And it's not going well, but it's okay because they're eyeing a better actor. Boom. They're eyeing, I believe his name is Coleman Domingo. Love him. He is great. I'd rather
That
see
sounds
him
familiar.
than he was the best that I know him and I thought he was really excellent is he was the sponsor for Zendaya in Euphoria, but he's also been in like a ton of other things too.
Oh, I know who that is. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's
so
great.
he's a great actor, and he recently was in the name is escaping me, but he's really a diverse actor, and I've always thought he's just been able to like captivate a scene really well. So I would rather him in a movie like that than you know, Jonathan Majors. And you know, Jonathan Majors was a good actor, but I'm sorry, but you know, kind of a crappy human, you know, for and convicted, so not going to give him any support ever.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
But yeah,
gosh.
so I think that's also another incentive as to why Marvel and DC need to back away for a bit. That they need to just regroup, maybe do some more animation stuff, maybe kind of work on that instead, and then kind of dip their toe back in because they're also getting really frivolous and really crazy and just kind of putting in these actors and stuff, and it's blowing up back in their face because these actors are literally committing crimes or standing on trial, and it's just very, very crazy.
I know.
Like with
It's
Ezra
getting
Miller,
wild.
you're telling me you couldn't have just go, okay, bye Ezra, and then call in Logan Lerman and my attention would have been 10 times more on that film? Come on. Like
I don't
there's
know.
other
I
things that they could have done.
probably. I don't know if it was like a contract issue. I don't even know. Like I have a feeling it's probably money. Like to scrap the whole thing would have like
I
cost them.
think
I don't
probably
know.
I wouldn't be surprised if these actors have in their clause where if they get fired or something like that, that essentially if I could see them saying if they have completed the work for a movie and the film decides not to release the movie or decides to scrap it or you know something else or like fire them after the production of the film, that maybe they are entitled to some type of monetary value, like essentially like an estimate of what would have been made is what I think. So like, I think that's why they're just kind of biting their lip and pushing it out, because they're probably thinking, well, if we can either push it out and then use that money to pay them, or not release it and that money's coming out of our pocket and we'll never see a profit from it.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what
Could
I'm
be. I don't
thinking.
know.
But it could be different
Well,
things.
they learned their lesson because both of those movies just tanked. So we'll
Yeah.
see what they do now.
Yeah. Okay, give me another movie that you saw.
All right. So I'm going to talk about two
Okay.
because they kind of go together, kind of. Um, Barbenheimer, Barbie,
Okay.
and Oppenheimer. I think Barbie, no matter how you feel about Barbie, it's just one of those things that did like revolutionize movies. It really brought the theaters back for sure. I mean, Barbie was the blockbuster of the summer. I had a very good time at the theater. I had a great
Yeah.
theater experience watching it. And it was really fun to see everybody so into the movies. Like, as a movie fan, even if I'm not particularly like, oh, like this isn't my favorite, like I loved seeing people dress up and have fun and laugh. And
Yeah.
it was fun. Like I had a good time with the movie. There are some things I love about it. There are some things I could leave. But the cast was, I mean, like Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, perfect Barbie and Ken. I can't see anybody better for that. It was just a lot of fun. And
Hmm.
I definitely, like, if you want a good time, if you just kind of want to shut your brain off and like watch a very pink setting and like just laugh a little bit, it's perfect. Great theater experience. And I really liked it. I really like what it did for the movies. Same with Oppenheimer, Barbenheimer that weekend. Oppenheimer was, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people, I've been hearing a lot of like negative things about Oppenheimer, actually, believe it or not. People don't like it, it's boring and it's too long. I will say, like, I could not sit through the whole thing. I had to go to the bathroom, and I had one of those apps
Yeah.
that told me when to go to the bathroom because I was like, all right, I gotta find a point. But I think the that whole production did a great job with the material they were giving. I love Cillian Murphy. I've loved him for a very long time from Peaky Blinders. He was also in a thriller that I really like called The Red Eye with, I think it's called The Red Eye with Rachel McAdams. I've just been such a fan of him, and to see him get the recognition is awesome. The cast was awesome. I really loved the story. Yes, it's long. Yes, you got to focus and it could be a lot, but I really liked it. And again, I loved what these movies did for the movies. So gotta give them their credit where credit is due.
Yeah, and so I did see Oppenheimer. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was more so like a, oh yeah, it's good, but my kind of like thing about it was like, of course it was going to be good. Like it was too much for it to not be good. So I don't think it was Nolan's best. I thought it was a
No, it's
great
not my
film.
favorite.
Yeah, I thought it was really well acted, well written, long, the shtick of it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great film, and I do think it deserves all the accolades and the awards that it is winning, because I do think it's overall an impressive film. It's not as impressive as I had hoped or wanted, but it still met Christopher Nolan expectations for me. So Oppenheimer was good. I did not see Barbie. Couple of reasons. One, I think by the time it came out, I was actually doing rotations. So
Yeah, it
I
was the
was like,
summer.
yeah, I was doing like 40 hours a week for like 6 weeks at a rotation site. And it was one of those things where I just kind of felt like I knew it before I even watched it, because by the time I was available to go see the movie, I felt like everything had been spoiled. Like I
Oh
felt like I
yeah.
was just seeing all the scenes, like, and even Barbie, like the actual like Warner Brothers was like posting like clips from the movie on their YouTube channel and stuff. And so I just felt like I had watched it, even though I didn't watch it. It's funny because you said people go to the movies and it's a good time and stuff, and kind of part of my brain said, maybe I don't like having a good time. And maybe that's why I didn't have the strong urge to see Barbie. But I do want to give it a shot. I want to give it a fair shot when it's kind of on the hush hush again, and maybe within the next 2 to 3 months, especially after award season when people aren't talking about it as much, because it's just been consistent communication. I love what it's done for movies. I love what it's done for movies in terms of bringing people out, bringing people to dress up. Like, I will always love and respect it for that. But in terms of an overall story that I'm attracted to, I think I'll enjoy it. But like, it's probably not going to be a memorable movie experience for me, but I'm not going to let that deter me away from watching it one day.
I think you would like Gosling for sure. I think that's kind of up your alley. I think, unfortunately, the bad thing about TikTok and social media is sometimes if you don't see movies right away and you're on like movie sites, the whole thing is ruined. And I
Yeah.
think that does suck. That's a part of like social media that like is hard because like, yeah, you want to be in the movie news, but then you're like, oh great, I just find that's actually what happened to me with Guardians of the Galaxy. I kind of knew
Yeah.
about Rocket before it happened. So like it was one of those things where like, oh man, okay, like I gotta stay off TikTok. So I don't blame you for sure. I
I
feel
also
like by
feel like
now,
trailers, God, like trailer editing needs to be reformed, because I watch a trailer and I sit back sometimes, I go, why am I going to watch the movie? You just spoiled everything for me.
no,
There's
for
no
sure.
more secrets. Like, you've told me everything from beginning to end. And so I feel like that hinders a movie. Like, people don't realize that a trailer that reveals too much is an easy way to get no one to see your movie, because you haven't left anything mysterious or anything interesting about it. And I felt like, although everyone was going to see Barbie for the hype of it and for, the fun of it and for the movie experience, that's how I felt about Barbie, where I'm like, oh, like, I understood exactly what it was about and the message that it was trying to convey, and I knew how it was going to end just from the trailer. And then everything else kind of trickled from headlines, from spoilers, from all things like that.
You know what movie did? So yeah, I agree. I unfortunately think nowadays, like, I think you could tell what Barbie was about from the trailer, and then on top of that, the 57 clips they posted afterwards. I will say that a movie that did it geniusly is Barbarian. The marketing for that
Yes.
movie, everybody should take notes because I didn't know what I was getting into when I saw that movie. Awesome. And I think we need to stop spoiling movies from the trailers. I don't want to know anything
Yeah.
about the movie. Just show me the characters. Give
Like,
me
you don't
a
have to lie. Like, you don't have to lie
no,
about
don't
what your movie
false
is.
advertisement, of course, no.
No, but and what's so great about Barbarian is you genuinely think that the trailer is reflective based on what you saw in like the first 30 minutes of the movie, and then it takes
Yeah.
that sharp turn and kind of unravels everything. We don't even need that much of a sharp turn. Just give me a little, like, just give me some things where I just go, "Oh, what's that? Oh, I don't know. I have to see the movie to figure it out. I understand." Like, just give me like little, like, I don't need you to spoon feed me the entire information. Give me just a little, like a teensy little bit of context clues, so that way I can go, oh, I want to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say, I think regardless, I think you'll have I don't know, I don't think you'll like it'll be your favorite movie, but I think like you'll giggle with Barbie. I think you'll like the colors. I think you'll like the sets and stuff. So I do think it's worth eventually like checking it out because I think, yeah, it was a fun watch
I
for
think
sure.
I'll like the, and I actually already know that I like the music because I've listened to the soundtrack of it, and I love the Billie
Yeah.
Eilish song. Ryan Gosling singing is great and everything, so I know that I'll enjoy it when I get to it. It's just, I kind of want to like enjoy it without, it's one of those things where if I and I know the option is I just don't have to post about it. It's one of those movies where if I post about it on social media, like to my stories, I'm gonna have like 10 people go, "Oh my god, this scene and this scene and this." It's one of those types of movies, which is fine. It brings people together and stuff, but kind of want to wait until after the award season to go see it.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's fine. You'll be able to do it in peace. Um, so your turn.
Okay. Next movie I have on the list was Oppenheimer, so we already talked about it. But one that I have on my list that you and I actually saw together, and I think it's the only film that we saw together in 2023 in the movie theaters, was FNAF.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
I
Yeah,
will
we
say,
did.
it was fun. Obviously, video game renditions are so tough to do, but honestly, I think it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I was a little it wasn't what I was expecting, but it also was a little bit better than, like I thought it was pretty good. Like a lot of people I felt like were ragging on the film. But I thought it was, pretty enjoyable. Like it was like it was okay. It wasn't a disappointment. I felt like it did um live up to like the video game expectation of it and more so. So I liked it. It was nice.
I had a good time. I thought it was fun. I had a good
And
time.
for the record, before we saw the movie, I actually gave Savannah a Freddy Fazbear puppet that she had in the theater, and that also really heightened the experience of it.
Oh yes, and it was really fun too. That was another situation where everybody in the theater was like had some FNAF shirt or like FNAF item. So that was fun. I thought that was a good time.
Big mistake not having Markiplier in the film. I would have given it a 10 out of 10 if I had seen Markiplier once. The Matt Pat, and I'm going to show how much of a nerd I am now. The Matt Pat and the Corey Kenshin cameos were nice, but I needed Markiplier in there. That would have really meant a lot more to me. Also, love Josh Hutcherson. This has reignited my love with Josh Hutcherson, and I feel like he is so underrated. Not saying that this performance of his was like incredible, but it just kind of made me realize I'm like, oh, I miss like the Josh Hutcherson era of films, like the Hunger Games and stuff, because I really enjoyed the Hunger Games when they first originally came out. And also one of my favorite shows of all time is Future Man with Josh Hutcherson. So it was nice seeing him back in movies. I felt like I haven't seen him in anything for so long.
And the good news is they're making a second one with him.
I hope it's the security breach version of it.
Oh, yes. And I hope Markiplier is in that.
He better be. So essentially, Markiplier said that he could not be in the FNAF movie because he himself is working on his own movie, which I'm excited for because it is a horror movie known as The Iron Lung. So I'm hoping that it gets released this year. He said it's going to be like a full theater experience where he does want it released. So I am very ready for that, and that is on my hopefully it comes out in 2024 list.
I love it. I am very excited for that. It'll be something we'll both go to the theater for again.
Yes. And then, okay, so what is your next film?
Oh my gosh, it's something we watched together.
Really? What? Am I missing something?
I think so. I think
What?
you might be missing one thing. It's called Sanctuary.
Oh, that's a 2023 film?
I believe so. We saw it in 2023.
I know we saw it in 2023, but maybe I know sometimes dates and stuff could be a little tricky because it was like a film festival premiere. So that tends to sway things. But oh my God, if that is, I'm looking it up right now.
I think it was released, I think it was like film circulation 2022, but I think it was released at least because it was available on demand. I saw it. We saw it relatively sooner. As soon as they got on demand. So I think it did technically come out this year for the public.
You are totally right. So I'm looking at it right now. It started premiering in festivals in late 2022, but as of, it says United States, like New York City premiere was May 11th, 2023, and theater release May 19th. Man, yeah, that's top of the list. Sanctuary? Holy crap, that was a fun movie.
It's so funny because I remember when I was trying to describe the plot to you, you were like, okay, if you really want to watch it. And then the first 20 minutes of the movie, I'm sweating. I'm like, oh no. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, because you didn't watch it beforehand. Like we watched it together for the first time.
And you were looking at me like, are you sure? Because I remember too, the first 20 minutes is, I don't know if it was graphic, but it was going in a direction that we weren't sure about.
It was a lot of foreplay. It was a lot of it. And it was very extended. And we were like, okay. And there was like grinding and things like that. And there was some stuff. But and I think maybe we skipped only like 1 minute of it until they started talking again.
Yeah.
But it was a great film. It was so funny, dramatic, awesome. Like I loved it. There's one line in there that I think literally killed us for like 30 minutes. There's a line where and I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he is the actor from Girls. He plays was it Marnie? Marnie's
boyfriend. I can't remember his name, but he also was in the horror movie Possessor.
Oh, Possessor. Yes. He was also in Possessor. I'm gonna look up his name right now. Oh, but there's like one line, and his name is Christopher Abbott, which does
Yes,
not look like his name.
it does
Christopher
not.
Abbott is the name of like an elderly British man, not this young guy who kind of looks Puerto Rican.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
you know, Christopher Abbott has this one line, and it's something akin to like he's like dissing the main lead, which is played by, and I'll actually be mentioning her later, Margaret Qualley.
Yes.
But he's like, you get your vegan ice cream because you're lactose intolerant. Like, it is the best line in the movie, and the way that he says it is so good. It is such a unique drama romance, and I'm so happy because it was something I looked up. I was like, oh, I think that was a 2022 film, so that's why I didn't add it to the list. But that was easily like top 3 for me.
I loved it. I'm so glad we took a chance on it. The movie is so impressive. It takes place in like a really extended hotel room, and the two main actors are fantastic. I love Margaret Qualley. I think she's great. I think people talk a lot about nepotism and nepo babies, but she's one of those people I think genuinely has talent. I saw her in a show called Maid as well. I think it was this year or last year. Awesome. I really love her. I think she's great. Um I'm going to say this was the year of like unconventional love stories. This was
Yes.
the year, and I'm here for it. I think the next movies I'm going to talk about are all like romantic in some way or have romantic parts of their movies. I'm here for it. I know you're here for it. I know that's your bread and butter too. So
Hey, don't start. So I'm a specific niche. It's so funny because when someone says, "Oh, you like romance films," they think of Love Actually.
I
You
said
know,
unconventional. I tried to be specific.
I like it's. I specifically have a niche, and it is romance films starring international psychotic couples. That is my niche. That is my bread and butter. Anything remotely similar, I'm gonna love. Give me unstableness. I don't need. I don't need sex. Okay, that is not for the. That's the not type of romance for me. Give me just. I'm looking in someone's brain, and I'm like, wow, like there's a lot of stuff that's messed up in there. There's a lot of trauma. That's what I like in a movie.
Well, I feel like this was a very unconventional, but also in a way like they had their problems, but their problems kind of brought them together, and they were able to come up with a really like sweet conclusion. So it turns it into this weird like sexual deviancy plot. And by the way, it's not physically super graphic if
Yeah.
that's something you're worried about. Like, yes, there's a lot of like language that like just to be aware of, but like it's not physically graphic. It's nothing like you wouldn't be able to turn on and watch. um it starts as at that, but then it actually has a really sweet conclusion. Like it's a
Yeah.
like really
And
cute.
maybe like it's pretty obvious like when like because we like I said, I think we fast forwarded maybe 2 minutes total, but
Yeah,
that's also because pardon me, I'm not a fan of watching sex scenes with my cousin. So
yeah. That's not for
peace and
us, guys.
love. It's just not something I'd like to share the atmosphere with you. That's a boundary, you know. But I really loved Sanctuary. It's actually like one of the only films that I've seen in recent years that's newer that I'm like, I gotta get that shit on DVD. Like,
Yeah.
I really, really love that movie. I, no joke, have had the DVD in my Amazon cart for like 6 months at this point. I will be buying it one day.
But yes, that is definitely a favorite of the year. I'm glad we took a chance on that.
Now, we were talking about romance films and deviance, and I think you have two things on your list that kind of go alongside with it. And I think I haven't seen these movies, but I think what you can say about them are going to cause controversy. And
Oh
I
my
say, lay
god.
it out, speak your truth.
Okay.
Remember, I'm a safe space. The comments might not be, but I'm a safe space, and whatever you feel is totally valid about the movie.
All right. Let's kind of let's do some negative talking before I get into my final three. Let's do it. Let's just rip them apart. Let's go.
So movie number one of I don't want to say disappointments, but I'll just say not the best movie experience for you.
Yeah. Which one we're doing first?
I think we should start with Saltburn.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. This was not for me. So this was one of those movies I can very validly say I didn't know what I was getting into. Point blank period. I was interested. I liked the director a lot. I liked Promising Young Woman. I really liked her work. So I was like, let me give this movie a shot. They have Barry Keoghan, they have Rosamund Pike, they have Jacob Elordi. Like, this is a stellar cast. Okay, let me paint the scene for you, everybody. I am in a pretty empty AMC theater. There might be 7 people with me. So I'm like, great, this is gonna be a great experience. It's gonna be quiet. If you've seen the movie, you know it's graphic. Okay, and the graphic scenes are extra long. So you can imagine my horror when all 7 of us are just slowly looking at each other throughout the whole movie. And we're like, oh, the movie, it felt tense. It felt uncomfortable. And everybody's different ages. And I'm glad they were uncomfortable too, because I'm like, if they were just like, yeah, this is great, I would have been like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. But I'll tell you the real reason I have a problem with this movie, other than the uncomfortable long sequences. I really think that this is a Purple Noon ripoff a little bit. This is not of our podcast. This is
yes. So okay, what Savannah told me, she was like, "This is a Purple Noon ripoff." I'm like, "You mean Emerald Fennell made a podcast about two girls talking about movies?" I was shocked, and then I realized she was talking about Talented Mr. Ripley type of Purple Noon.
Yes, and I'll explain why. Right. I won't get into too many spoilers if you wanted to see the movie. And let me just say, like, production-wise, dialogue-wise, and acting-wise, it's actually a solid movie. I am just upset because the plot is extremely similar to what happens in The Talented Mr. Ripley. A disturbed young man lies to get in the good graces of his rich friend and then slowly wants to take over his life. And he does that by murder and more lies and more covering up.
So you're not the only one who has compared it to that. I know for some reason Emerald Fennell is like really tight-lipping and not trying to say that that's an inspo at all. But I literally read the review from RogerEbert.com, and the first like few lines it says this Talented Mr. Ripley spinoff. So I don't think it's wrong to say that if multiple people are pointing it out.
Well, I was just surprised because it is very like, if you haven't seen it, I understand genuinely. But if you have seen those movies, you're kind of like, yes, she did her own thing. And the movie, I do give her credit. Like, the movie is very beautiful. The actor, she picked a great cast. And I do like her, which is, it hurts me to even say this because I think she's good. I'm just very disappointed that like, that's not said to be an inspiration, because for me, it is literally just a more graphic version of The Talented Mr. Ripley set in England.
Yeah.
That's it. So I'm not understanding. And I understand if people haven't seen the movie. The first one is like 60 years old. The second one is 25 years old now, right? We're talking about older movies in general. But I don't know. Like, I just find it hard to believe she hasn't seen either of those. I would just be surprised to hear that like this just kind of came from her. And if it did come from her, I'm surprised nobody told her, hey, like, this is a, did you see that? Like, it's similar. That's all. I just a really big Purple Noon stan. And again, I'm not for very long graphic sequences, especially when I feel like they're made to shock us rather than tell us something about the character. Because I think we could have used 1 or 2 of those scenes. We got about 5 or 6 of really long graphic sequences that I just think was made to shock us. And it was used under the guise of like, oh, well, this is a movie for the girls. This is like, we're going to switch the lens on male to female. My thing is, I got nothing from that. Did other people get something from that? Maybe. I don't know. But I just I think I would have enjoyed the movie if they just cut 4 of those scenes out.
Well,
I think I would have enjoyed it more.
Really funny? So more and more people, as like with the award seasons going on and people are interviewing Barry Keoghan.
Keoghan. That's
I think it's Keoghan. I don't know. I
say Keegan, but I could be wrong.
I just look at it and I try to pronounce it with an Irish accent and I go, it's Barry Keoghan. Barry Keoghan.
Sounds right.
Sorry. But essentially, I've been finding out, and this disturbs me to my core that a lot of the scenes are improvised. I know the scenes by name. I may have not seen them, but I've read them and have described it to me, and also like understand like what's happening in the scene. And do you know how many times Barry Keoghan is coming out and going like, "That was just me doing my thing. That was me improving," and I'm like, "What? What?" Like, apparently, the biggest thing that they're saying now is that the grave scene is just him going, "Can I do one more take?" and go off the cuff and producing the grave scene.
Okay, he needs a break because now this is my problem.
He's Joker brained. Joker brained.
They're just making this guy do psychotic. He's going through Evan Peters right now, the same situation where he's taking these really disturbing, like what he's been in Sacred Killing of a Deer. He's been in some other. He's played Joker. He's literally like all these. It's really scary. When you think of him, you think of like, oh, this guy's a little bit off his rocker because they keep giving him these roles or he keeps seeking them out. He needs a break. You need to do something fun. Do a comedy. Do something else, because if you're improvising that scene, that's crazy to me.
Like if he's so reportedly saying he's a method actor. It's like, cool. You know, method actors could also use therapy. Like, you know, like you can method your way to the clinic, you know, and get some help. But it's just, I think I'm just getting really tired of people using the word feminism to just do wacky shit. Like, I would never, ever say like, oh yeah, like, Last Tango in Paris is a feminine film. I would never say that, even though there are feministic elements.
Yes.
To films like that, and maybe even showing struggles of feminism. I don't just use that word lightly. I don't just go, yeah, that's she killed him. That's feminism right there. No.
But this isn't even feminism, because the main, like, okay, small spoiler for everybody. So if you don't want to hear this, just skip a little bit, but he wins in the end. He gets everything he wants. For me, that's not what, okay, so we see his body and we're not looking at from the female, like we're looking at it, I guess, quote unquote, through the female gaze. That's supposed to be the feminist part. But like, my thing is, it's like this psychopath of a man won. What are we doing?
Also, like, I don't understand why. Okay. Jacob Elordi bathtub scene. Haven't fully seen it. I know about it. Just because you are a female who would love to be in that bathtub with Jacob Elordi does not mean that the scene that you had witnessed with Barry Keoghan was a feminist film. Because if you look at a guy and go, I'm a girl, I would do that, feminism. That's transitive property. That's not feminism.
They're
That's
also
the transitive property.
It's feminism because of the scene. I don't know if you read the scene with the girl that plays Jacob Elordi's sister, or it's like a sexual interaction.
Yes, it's.
I don't know, man. I don't know why that's considered that. I mean, I guess because it's like, oh, well, it's about the female and that, but it's still kind of like, dude, I don't really. That who is this for? Who's that doing? What's this doing for feminism? That's my thing. What is this doing for our side, guys?
I think it's one of those things where, like, with feminism and stuff, there has to be like a message about it. Like, please don't tell me you were trying to convey the struggles of being a woman with a period in that scene. Don't try to spin it that way. Like, just say you're a little freaky. You wanted to go off the cuff. You want to wow people, and you wanted to shock people by putting in a scene like that, and you had actors who were willing to do it. But don't try to like just say you're a little freaky. I would rather say like, yeah, I would love it. I would eat it up if a director was like, yeah, I'm a little freak, I put this scene in. I love you if you're saying that. But if you're like, I put this scene in for women, I don't know about that. You know, there's some women, you know, like a little romance, like a little kiss, things like that, you know? And it goes different for everyone. And I'm sure like there are definitely people who love Saltburn because it was just one big.
If you like it because it's goofy and crazy, all power to you. And I'm not taking that away from anybody.
If you were like someone that found Saltburn erotic and you enjoyed it, good for you. But please don't try to tell me this was a win for women when I see crazy shit like that.
I'm disappointed because I know she makes, like, Promising Young Woman, in my opinion, was more of a feminist movie because aside from the comic book, kind of storyline of her being, vendetta and everything, it talked about what happens to women during
Yeah.
like that, like when you unfortunately
And
in
I
the
loved
movie,
Promising Young Woman. I thought it
it
was
had it
great.
had a message. It
I
had a message.
Exactly. It used a woman's trauma. I'm sorry if you hear my
No,
dogs
I,
being
I
buck
just hear them
wild.
going off. It's okay.
But it's because I think my dad went to go get the mail. And anyone leaves my house for 10 seconds, they're barking, and then my 15-year-old Yorkie is just going off. But yeah, it's just one of those things where with it was using trauma for some type of justice, but also in terms of a movie to bring out something like a moral issue, as well as to bring out like a struggle that women go through. And like I said, love Promising Young Woman, but I don't understand how Barry Keoghan going goofy on a grave is a win for me. Is not even a win for me, but like I can you imagine like realistically like her going, I did this for women. I don't know about that. I think you did that for you, and that's okay if you did that for you. Like, and it's kind of the same way I feel about just even knowing about the next movie that you also saw, and you had a
Oh
two for
my
two back to
gosh.
back psychosexual experience in a movie theater.
It wasn't, guys, I was tired that month. Oh
We were
my
literally
God.
like, you need a break. Like I was suggesting like watching Shrek with you just to give you like that deep of like a palate cleanser, and not dissing on Shrek or anything like that. Love Shrek, but like I was just like, no, we need to go back. Like we need to go back to the way it was, and we need to reform, and we need to go through like penance and obliterate that from you, because you had just been through the ringer back to back with these two films.
Okay, so listen, everybody. Part two of my very tired week. So it was my birthday, guys. It was my actual birthday, and my husband took me to this really nice theater. Like it's a whiles away too, but it's a really nice theater. And the way the theater is set up is essentially it's set up like a restaurant. And you have a little table, and they bring in it's like really comfy chairs, and it's an open seating. You can see everybody too. It's a really beautiful movie theater. Okay. Me and him heard nothing, and maybe this is my fault. Maybe I just need to research a little bit more movies. I thought Poor Things, and this is what I saw. I saw Poor Things was going to be a Frankenstein movie. I thought it was going to be like steampunk and coming of age. You could imagine my horror when 20 minutes into the movie, I actually find out what it's about. And when I tell you guys, it never stopped. It never stopped from beginning to end. And let me all just say, I'm trying to eat my chicken tenders that I ordered. And everyone in the theater with us was not, they
It's
were older.
equivalent to like, can you imagine eating dinner with your family and you have like someone there at the dinner table and they're literally moaning, like actual like euphoric moaning while eating? It's the worst experience. It taints whatever you're eating. So be in a movie theater like that in under lights, because this is a dine-in theater experience and you know that they have the lights on and everything, for you to go through that as you're eating chicken tenders and you're hearing, Emma Stone, I think, calling an appendage wee wee or something like that, must have been quite the experience for you.
Furious Jumping is what it was called. Let's call it Furious Jumping because that's what it was called in the movie. 80% of the movie was furious jumping, guys. I was absolutely,
It's jumping. I just
yes,
realized, I was like, what's she talking about? And then
yes,
I put it together what you're trying to allude to.
furious jumping. Again, maybe it's my fault because the trailer, like I knew there was going to be a little bit because there is a part where you do see something. I knew there was going to be a little bit. And I was like, okay, if there's like a few scenes, like I'm an adult, I can handle it. It's not going to taint the movie for me. It was not. It was not. And for anybody that's thinking about going to see this, go see it by yourself because I saw it with my husband. I was mortified. I heard some people were taking their mothers, and I do not understand. So let me talk about the positives. Really cool set design, steampunk. Let me talk about the negatives.
I was expecting more. I was expecting so much more for you to say.
Okay. acting was good. Acting was great, actually. Cast was great. Okay. I think this was a movie. People love this movie too. People think this is a masterpiece. People think, I've heard the critique of like, oh, this is making fun of men and like their view of women and sexual situations. And okay, you guys, look, I think this is another movie being packaged as a feminist movie when it's really not. I thought this movie was actually a little bit backwards for me. It's not my type of feminism because, a little bit of a spoiler, Emma Stone for most of the movie actually has like an infant's brain. In fact, the whole movie, essentially the Frankenstein part of it, little bit of a spoiler, is they resurrect a woman by taking her baby's brain. Okay, she was pregnant, putting it in her brain. And the whole movie, you're seeing this child woman go through what they are calling womanhood, what I'm just calling like sexual situations. And I find it not feministic at all. I think there were a lot of themes that are quite backwards, such as her, and people are going to be like, you didn't get it. Fine, maybe I didn't get it. Maybe I didn't get the point. I just did not like that this is being packaged to be a feminist movie because she's her own person at the end. That's
Well,
wonderful.
bestie, of course
Great.
you know that when a woman is young in the brain and they're developing, the first thing that they do is they want to touch themselves. Like, at 4 years
Ugh.
old, every young girl goes through that.
And
At 3 years
I've
old.
gotten the critique of like, well, it's a Yorgos film. Okay, I saw The Favorite. I loved The Favorite. The Favorite was phenomenal. I loved The Lobster. Now, The Favorite also had some sexual situations. The Lobster had some sexual situations
But
as
with
well.
adults.
Yes, but this was also over 80% of the movie. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Maybe I'm not being a grown up about it, whatever. I'm just having a hard time with this idea that our independence comes from sexual situations and we have the right to be sexually free and freedom, and that's all good and stuff, but
Yeah.
that's what the point of the movie is making about feminism. So
Yeah,
my
it's
thing
almost
is,
it almost feels like they're kind of saying like in order for like in modern times, in order for you to become a woman and grow and to learn, you must go through an OnlyFans phase and then recover from it and then find God. It just feels like that is the blueprint that people want us to be sometimes, and it's like I'm all about like you do you and stuff, but like don't like let's not apply it as like a general phenotype or anything like that.
it was also just very like not an intelligent movie. It's very much on the nose because they talk about how a lot about like, oh, it's her life, it's her body, it's her mind, it's her freedom. And it's like, at least be creative with it. If you're gonna make a movie like this, don't regurgitate the same BS that everybody else does. Like those ideas might be good and well, but at the end of the day, like it's not a creative idea, and it's not. I just having a hard time, and there a lot of people are like, well, she loses the babiness, and men start not to like her. Yeah, but she talked like a baby for
Yeah,
40
but you
minutes of the
still
movie.
made three actors go and do rounds on her in a voice and saying things that only would be akin to a child. So it's even if like that, even if Yorgos Lanthimos is someone who just looks at this and like, I thought this was very funny. I thought it was a funny little situation. It doesn't mean that it's like should have been greenlit. Like, I don't think I would have had a problem with the amount of sex and stuff that you say that is
Oh
in the
yeah,
film and stuff if they had said like, oh yeah, like she bonked her head and like, or they have to give her something else and she has no memory and amnesia and stuff like that, and she, even if it was like more like that, I feel like it would have been okay. But it's the deliberate fact of like that her child's mind is input in her, which also is kind of like really messed up because you said that she like attempts to commit suicide while pregnant, right?
yes, and we find out later it's because she's in a really abusive marriage,
Yeah.
really, really abusive, horrific situation for her. Um, but I don't know. I think the idea of like resurrecting her and then using the kids, like that's already a
So it's
I
like
don't know.
so she goes through an abusive relationship to then being child-minded, complicit, and forced to forget about her own like motherhood journey.
Essentially, and she finds out later what happened to her, and like again, they try to spin this a lot of ways. It's just for me, it fell flat. Like I understand what they were trying to do, but it felt like a weak attempt at giving us like a movie about feminism. It really
Yeah.
was. And like towards the end, like she's intelligent and she, this and that, and she gets her vengeance on her ex-husband. It's just, again, I think I'm really tired of movies saying there's a feminist perspective and then everyone going, yes, it's a feminist film because the women went. It's like, dude, okay. I think we deserve a little bit better. Or like if you're gonna do stuff like this, if you're gonna make it that theme, be creative. Yes, the plot, like the world is creative, but the plot in terms of like what the meaning is not very creative. It's not very like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like look, I'm a fan of sexually deviant films. We all know
I know
that.
you
But
are,
I
yes.
think yes, you are, Stephanie. Admit it. But like there's, for at least for me, such an intense boundary when it comes to the idea of children being placed in these films and the use of children being placed in these types of films. I told you that Red Rocket's one of my favorite movies, and literally in the middle of the movie, I almost walked out because I thought that they were using a very young actress who was underage. Because it's just, you gotta, it's a boundary. That's a boundary for me. I don't mess around with that stuff. I don't like trekking, even if it was in Yorgos's mind for a comedic sake to just kind of have this and be playful with sex and stuff. The fact that you've already established it is a child-minded person not only is, and I'm not going to start throwing around the p word around, but it's just not appropriate, as well as it could in a way, and I have heard of this before, be seen as fetishizing those who have cognitive disabilities, like severe cognitive disabilities, to where their mental capacity is limited. So it's just like, it's just too much. I feel like if they had made the character have amnesia, forget about what happened, and then have this moment of awakening and realizing what's happened to her and everything, I feel like that just would have been overall way better. And I think it would have been used as like a way better like literary tool in terms of moving the story forward.
I just had like a really big problem, like you said, with her being child brain the whole time. And I think just also a spoiler, when she does, I think, reach what is supposed to be like adulthood or like at least early teenagers, she finds her independence through prostitution.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying with this? Like this is not, I don't know. I think this is being packaged as something that it's not. And I think this film is, I don't know. And people are going to be like, well, aren't you religious? Yeah, but
No,
I could still
I
say,
think I genuinely think like and I'm, I'm not someone who practices any religion, so it's a boundary for me too, and it's probably one of the reasons why I won't be seeing the film, because it's too uncomfortable. And listen, like I love the movie The House That Jack Built, and I know that that is a boundary issue for some people, and I get it and I respect it. So I'm just hoping that some people will serve us the same grace, because I know that House That Jack Built super graphic and does involve the horror use of children, and it's probably like one of the most like shocking things to see in a movie. And it's, I'm not saying like, oh my god, that was so fun to see that scene. No, it was incredibly painful to watch, but that's why I think it's a great horror movie. But and if you don't have that boundary, that's to you. But I don't like people like, you can't just say like House That Jack Built is trying to prove that America has a gun violence issue, huh, with a movie like that. Like you can't deduce it to that. So I think people just got to put out movies and not, if you don't have a moral to it, don't assign a moral to it if there's one that doesn't exist. It's okay to be a little freaky and to make your own thing as long as you're not hurting people. But with something like this, it crosses a moral boundary for me.
I guess I was surprised to see how many people also like if you enjoyed this, I'm not saying there's something wrong, but like I just feel like it was, I don't know, the message was a little too on the nose for me, and I don't think they executed what he was trying to say in a good way. That's all. So it wasn't for me. Nothing to the cast. Cast was great. Like the steampunk thing that was going on. I just felt the movie, anything that was trying to be said was overshadowed
Yeah.
completely. So it wasn't for me, guys. Sorry, not really sorry. It wasn't for us.
All right. And do you have any more? You have 3 more movies on your list, right?
Yes, and I will go through them quickly because I'd say these are probably my favorite of the year. Top three
Okay.
favorites.
Go through them.
I really liked Maestro on
Okay.
Netflix. I think Bradley Cooper is wow. I was very impressed. Very, very impressed with his performance. He is I don't think he gets enough credit. I think he's a fabulous actor.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Carrie Mulligan. I really like Carrie Mulligan. She was great too. It's really a story about Leonard Bernstein and his marriage and how his lifestyle affected his marriage and affected his wife and his family. And it was just really interesting character pieces. I think some people are going to go into this movie thinking it's going to be about his work, and they do talk a little bit about that, of course. But it was really just about the person he was and the person his wife was and how they kind of interacted with each other, how they made a life for each other. Great movie. Please watch it on Netflix. Really wonderful.
Okay. That's also on my list. My dad said he saw it, and so I saw glimpses of it when he was watching it on the TV, and he said it was really good too, so I definitely am interested. What is the next movie on your list?
Priscilla.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
That's another one on my list too.
So good. So I am very flippant with Sofia Coppola. I think I love Lost in Translation. I really love The Virgin
But we don't talk
Suicides.
about the bling ring.
We don't talk about the bling ring. We don't really talk about anything else she's really done, if I've been honest. I sometimes feel like she can go through really highs and some really lows, but Priscilla really retrieved her in my eyes. What a great movie. Oh my god. I'm sorry, but Jacob Elordi as Elvis, chef's kiss. So good. Sorry, Austin Butler. Probably rolling in your sleep right now,
Yeah.
probably pulling out your hair. So good. This is a movie from Priscilla Presley's experience being the wife to Elvis Presley and what she went through.
Which I
So
think was
good.
needed because I did see the Elvis movie that came, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis movie, and I do think a movie from this type of perspective is so interesting and so needed.
Absolutely. They really do. You could tell she also cared for Priscilla a lot. You could tell
I
this
can't
movie
wait
was
to
very.
see a Elvis movie that doesn't have Mr. Presley every 10 minutes.
Well, the way I see it is like the Elvis movie with Austin Butler was a celebration of how grand Elvis was, where this is a
This is
character
tearing him
piece.
down.
This is yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. He's not really well pictured in this movie. I think they tried to make him more complex, but at the end of the day, like this was about a young girl that had to learn to grow up really fast and caught the eye of this major celebrity. I really recommend it. The acting is great. The story is so compelling. Even when you know the ending, you're really rooting for her. You're really rooting just in general. This is my second favorite movie of the year, and I'm so excited to talk about my first favorite movie of the
Okay,
year.
what is it? What is it?
I actually saw this on a plane, and I cried on the plane. It's Past Lives. Past Lives. Oh my God, what a beautiful film about culture and naturalization and immigration and first loves and new loves. And oh my, I've never seen in a really long time this. I didn't feel like I was watching a movie. I felt like I was watching just somebody's life take place. That's how amazing the acting was. I am not part of the Korean culture, but I felt like, oh my God, I felt like I could be in that movie because I was
Past
like,
Lives made me feel Korean.
yes, it made me understand. I was like, I understand. I'm not an immigrant, but I feel for you. I can almost empathize with the situation.
Me when I listen to K-pop. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but it was so the acting beautiful. I really hope they give some awards to at least the 3 main leads of the movie. The director needs an award ASAP. She did such a wonderful job. It was the most beautiful movie I've seen in a really long time. And it's not a conventional love story because it's not really how you think it would work out. But it's so beautiful. I cried. It's emotional. You have like mixed feelings at the end of it, but you're also really happy at how it works. I sing this movie's praises. I think this is an A24 film. I'm pretty sure that they're killing it, honestly. Such a beautiful movie. Please go watch it if you haven't. I feel like this movie didn't get enough love. I feel like people know about it, but I was just so surprised of how much I love this film. Please, Stephanie, you gotta watch
I will. It's on the list, and I do want to see
it.
it. It's high up on the list too. Now, for me, just like how your favorite movie is a movie that I haven't seen, my favorite movie is a movie you haven't seen, and you have to see it because I was blown away by it because I was expecting just a nice action movie, something a fun experience, and it ended up being, in my opinion, the best movie of 2023. I don't think many other films are going to compare to it, even the list as I go through, just because it was so good. It had great timing, great action. It had a well developed plot, incredible acting, and incredible graphics. And my number one movie of the year is Godzilla minus one. I could not believe it. I knew I wanted to see it because I've been a big fan of Godzilla since I was a kid. And I even, like, I was obsessed with Godzilla at one point. I was obsessed with Mothra, and I had, like, I even recently bought a Mothra Squishmallow. So I would say I'm a fan of Godzilla, and I went through like a nice Godzilla period, like around 7 years old or something like that. And I have seen the newer ones, the American ones. They suck. This one was incredible. Watching it, there were, you know what it was, when I was watching one scene, probably like within the first 30 to 40 minutes, I felt like I was watching, and I don't like comparing things often, but in terms of like the shock factor and everything, I felt like I was watching like this time's Jaws, with how good it was, like in terms of like how things were sequenced, hearing everyone in the theater go and things like that. It was so good. And you know it's good too, and I already told Savannah this, when me and my boyfriend were just lasered in and watching a movie, and we were capable of ignoring the couple just touching each other during, we
Oh
literally
my
sat right next to us,
gosh.
which was insane. And we were just so enamored by the movie, like we didn't even care. I think if I went to go see Killers of the Flower Moon, I would have strangled one of them because I would have been agitated by the movie. I would have been agitated by them, and it would have been mad. But literally, Godzilla minus one was so good that it just kept my attention. The action was great. The drama was there. It was given well, and it was just awesome. And Savannah, I think you are genuinely going to have such a good time with this movie. I'm not sure if it's going to land top 10 for you, but I think you're going to really enjoy it.
I'm really excited. I've heard nothing but like fantastic things about this movie. So it's on the top of my list right now.
And I've already mentioned this before, like to you, but the reason why I'm also like just so impressed with it is because compared to every other movie that came out this year, this movie only worked with a $15 million budget, which is insane for a Godzilla movie. When you consider, I think the last Godzilla movie cost like 30 to 50 million very easily. So, it's, and not only that too, but the director is also the head special effects artist for all of the attack scenes and everything. So even, and that led to so much more like better scenes that were filmed so well and so greatly. So I really can't wait for you to see it. This is something where I'm like, if this doesn't get chucked into the Criterion Collection because they have that big Godzilla bundle, they're missing out.
I'm really excited. It's on the top of my list. I'm going to see it like ASAP. The
Yeah,
minute
this
it
is the first time I've seen, like, there's with I kind of label like Godzilla as like a horror franchise. This is the first time I've seen a horror franchise where you have this movie and people are saying it's as good as the original. It is as good and as important in terms of compared to all the other films as the original. So it's so impressive, and I think you're really gonna just enjoy the experience of it.
I am very, very excited. Again, it's on the top of my list. I've heard nothing but amazing things. I think I'm going to enjoy it for sure.
Now, in terms of movies that I have on my list that I want to see, we already mentioned some of them. One being The Iron Claw. That is an A24 film I really want to see with Zac Efron and Jeremy Allen White. Have you heard of the movie The Killer?
Yeah, with Michael Fassbender, I have, but I've heard mixed things. So I don't know, but I definitely do want to see it.
I've heard the reason why I want to see it is because it very much looks inspired by Les Samurai. So it has that feel, and like even if you look at the cover, it totally looks like the Les Samurai cover for it. So that's on my list. Now, one of the movies that are on my list is something I'm pretty sure you said you saw, but I don't think it's in your favorites. Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Too long?
It I think Lily Gladstone deserves all the praise. She was wonderful. It is very long and unfortunately did fall a little flat for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of expecting that with Scorsese film. I feel like every, year he gets older, his films get older in terms of how long they are. So Killers of the Flower Moon is still something I'd like to give a shot. One movie that I was like, maybe I'll see, but then after talking with you about it when we discussed Lolita was May December.
Oh,
I've been
great
watching like
movie.
some behind the scenes, and I'm just really impressed with the actor Charles Melton because I've known him from Riverdale, and I was not expecting him to be such a pivotal role in this movie. So excited to see that.
Great movie. Definitely
Anatomy of a
worth it.
Fall,
100%.
The Boy and the Heron,
Yep.
Past Lives, like I said, is on the list. Zone of Interest, I know, is an effed up movie
I cannot wait.
that's
I
gonna do
cannot
good
wait.
for me. It's gonna appease the deviant part of my mind. Um, Monster, the Korean film, is a film I want to see. And then this one film I kind of just stumbled upon, and I'm like, whoa, no one spoke about this. I want to see it. And I was telling you a little bit about it. It's called The Blind Man Who Did Not Want to See the Titanic. And it's
Yes.
this really weird, I love the name of it. It kind of draws my attention. It's a Polish film. I really like Polish films. So I'm excited to see. I say I really like Polish films. Meanwhile, I just like the Three Colors trilogy. I'm such a big fan. But I'm excited to see that because it definitely looked really interesting. TV shows, I watched nothing. The only three things that I want to see is The Last of Us, The Bear, and the Daryl Dixon TV show.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Those are the only three I want to see. What about you?
This is going to be a great year for TV. I'm actually really excited because I'm trying to think
The
show.
Fallout TV this is the year for me. This is the year for games. This is the year for gamers. The Fallout TV show. Oh my god, that's going to be so good.
Fallout. I am excited for the Shogun series on Hulu that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out next month. I am excited for. I like a show called Tokyo Vice on HBO Max. Season 2 is coming out. Um, there's a show on Prime called Mr. and Mrs. Smith that looks interesting with Donald Glover and Maya Esco something. She's from Pen 15. Trying to think, there's a lot of TV that's coming out in the next year, and I'm just very excited. Very, very excited.
I'm really, really excited. And then there's also one that has kind of no one's talked about because this movie apparently was being worked on like a few years ago, and not really anyone was mentioning about it and stuff. But I'm really excited because just from there's barely anything on it, and like I said, I don't think you know about it, but there is a Marlon Brando movie coming out, and it is Billy Zane playing an older
Oh,
Marlon Brando.
really?
Yes, and I am excited for it. I think it's going to be great. I think it looks really good. I have no idea. I think Billy Zane like is one of the very few people, especially with how he looks today, who could play an older Brando and look really, really good as an older Brando because he has the same eyes as Brando. So I'm not sure about acting or if he's going to nail the voice. That's going to be so difficult to do. It's so unique, but I'm excited and I'm hoping that it does finalize and come out this year.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm really excited for that.
I really want to see it. I'm trying to see if there's any more photos of it and stuff. Like any photos that I can show you because I've literally only seen like the pamphlet for it and stuff. It's based on a book called Waltzing with Brando, Planning a Paradise in Tahiti. So it's him kind of in his Tahiti days, which I'm for because those were the days when he was his happiest, you know. So I'm excited to see how that's going to look. Um, And then in terms of, so that's really it for me for TVs and movies. Now, do you have anything else before I get into video games?
No, I
And
spoke my piece.
listen, this was a win for gamers. This was a freaking win for gamers, guys. I'm telling you, I got so much plot. I got juice. I got action. I got great gameplay. There were definitely a lot of disappointments, but so many bangers that I could not shut up about. So Savannah knows all of these games very well because I would not shut up about it. Now, number one on my list for story, for the way the game felt, for the cinema elements of this game, Alan Wake 2. Oh my god, I played Alan Wake for the first time right before Alan Wake 2 came out because everyone was telling me that I was going to like it. I really enjoyed Alan Wake 1. I love Alan Wake 2. It is so good, and I've shown Savannah so many clips from it because I was just so impressed with the mixing of like real life storytelling and live action video elements and incorporating it to a video game, which is so cool. Resident Evil 4 Remake. If you know, you know. That's all I gotta say. Great game, fun, played it, beat it 3 times. Great story, great fun, did the original justice. Final Fantasy 16. If I could hit my table right now and just get out all these emotions, I'm almost done with it. I am 50 hours in of Final Fantasy 16 and I am 92% done. That's what my PS5 tells me, that I'm 92% done with it, and I don't want it to end. I don't want this thing to end. I have been strung into a fantasy story, and I'm not a fantasy person, but now I am. I played the demo, 2.5 hour demo, and before beating Final Fantasy 16, I bought the soundtrack. I bought 5 other Final Fantasy games because that is how good Final Fantasy 16 is to me right now. And I already spoiled the ending for myself, and I know I'm going to have an out of body sobbing reaction when I get to the ending of this game. Savannah knows. She can attest. She hears me talk about it all the time.
I watched a clip, in fact.
I showed her the clip. I was mourning, and I showed her the clip. Now, this one kind of relates to movie news and kind of relates to what's coming out in the future. Death Stranding. I played the director's cut that came out in 2023. Incredible. Absolutely insane. Didn't think I was gonna like it. Story was incredible. Story was insane. Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro. This is the game that Margaret Qualley was in, and her character made me sob so much, and I loved her character in the game. And Death Stranding was just, it was something that when I started, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, this is good. And then at some point I was like, this is okay, but I'm going to keep going. And then when the ending hit, I was like, this is the best. This is the best. Like, it was so good. And then finally on my list is going to be the Dead Space remake. And I plead that John Carpenter just put down the controller for 1 second and create the Dead Space movie. He is actually a big fan of the game and has said himself that if he were to go back and do something, he wants to make a Dead Space movie, and he is the man to do so. I want to see that happen. It needs to happen. I did play the original. I thought the remake was great. It's still the same story elements and stuff, but the graphics and everything were just so great and so incredible. Dead Space is one of those where I think it could work so well as like a TV series. And one thing I feel like Dead Space is, everyone just kind of like reduces it to alien and just fighting aliens and stuff, when there is this insane cult element to Dead Space that no one talks about. Have you heard about Dead Space before talking to me about it?
No, like actually, I've never like you've obviously told me, but before you told me, no, not at all.
In wrapping up Dead Space, essentially the plot is about, in the future, you are on the ship and you are sent to this one planet because a distress call has been made. essentially the plot is, and it takes a while to get into it, but once it gets there, oh, it's so good. It is about this cult, this religious cult that believes that there is this marker, that there is their god, and that this is going to happen. And it's very much a dangerous cult because it isolates people from their families. It's very, very dangerous cult. When all of a sudden the prophecies of this cult become true. And so their marker, this god, is really just an alien life form that takes over everyone and kills everyone.
That's
So
wild.
the cultists embrace this and they let it onto ships, and it's got really great twists because you know characters that you have been with along the way are actually secretly a part of the cult and are doing things to try to essentially launch that marker to Earth and turn everyone into aliens because they think it's like the will of the god. So it is absolutely
That's
insane,
wild. That is an insane
scary and
plot.
terrifying, and it's so good. And I feel like that also, in terms of like 2023 games, didn't get a lot of like talk about because you know it's a remake, but it really is just so good. So those were my favorite games, and I was really happy because this was also the year that I was able to convince, you know, gamer Savannah to play some games as well, and I got her an Xbox 360 and I started her out on some games. So any video games or anything that you felt that you've really enjoyed? I know I know you haven't played like 30 video games because I'm the one with the problem, but has there been anything that's kind of caught your attention as you've been exploring things?
Well, I've played a few this year.
Oh yeah,
The
for
one I
sure. I know you played at
yeah.
least like five or you know five-ish games, maybe probably more at this point.
I finished a game called Lake, which is a relaxing like game where you pretend you're like a male woman from the 80s, like discover her life in a mountain town. It's really fun if you haven't played it. Recommend it.
Okay.
I like Dreamlight Valley cuz it's Disney and it's like cute. What else? Oh, I love Until Dawn. I finished that. That was great.
Nice.
I started the quarry, but my husband won't play with me, so I'm
It's
like scared to
so
play by
good. I'll
myself.
play the quarry with you. I actually played the quarry for the first time this year too, and it was really great.
Thank you. You will play it with me. I'm gonna make you. And then I started Bioshock because you let me Bioshock 4, I think.
Oh, three. Bioshock,
3.
Bioshock Infinite.
Yes, I really like that. I'm having a hard time with the combat, but
I
I'm enjoying.
understand. When I replayed it, I also realized I was like, dang, this game is really difficult.
So I've been having my husband like shoot for me as because I'm like I'm never gonna get by. I'm really enjoying that story, and then of course Fallout. I haven't made as much progress, but the world of Fallout is very very cool,
Which
and
I'm
I'm
happy
enjoying
you kind of
exploring.
got into the game, just a little bit of it, so that way you can really, you know, compare it to the show that's coming out and see, like, and I definitely think with you playing Fallout, you now have like, and I feel like a lot of fans have such a great appreciation for the trailer already because you just
Sure.
see so many things that like, you know, in games and stuff like that in the Fallout series just come back to life and you know make it so realistic. So although I don't think it's going to be a direct retelling from one of the games, I think it's going to be something brand new. The elements that they have of Fallout right now is so good.
Absolutely. I'm very excited for that show. I'm very much now that I know the story and I played the game a little bit, big appreciation for it.
And apparently, so it looks like the town that this is based, like the Fallout town, because Kyle MacLachlan, who is in the film or in the series, just posted, and it looks like it's a town, like it looks like it's a blurred postcard, and it looks Fallout as heck, where it says Varmin Town, like Varmin or Varnam. I don't know. It's still blurry, but very funnily in Kyle MacLachlan fashion, it shows like the preview to the Varnation or Varmation town, whatever it may be. Then it says in Comic Sans on the next image, cocaine, next image, money, next image, mystery, next image, coming soon.
I love that. That's so funny.
So I'm really, really excited for the Fallout show. And I think this year is going to be a year for the gamers, especially. It's going to be my year. It's been my year, bestie, for games, but the renaissance continues, because this year I'm getting Metal Gear Solid. I'm getting Final Fantasy Rebirth, and I'm getting, at some point, Silent Hill 2 remake, and I am ecstatic.
You're gonna go crazy.
I'm going
go actually
hog
crazy.
wild. You're not going to hear from me for a few days the minute that game comes out. I hope you know.
Oh no,
It's
this
nothing
has been
personal,
something.
bestie.
This has been something you have been waiting for. I think you specifically, when you bought the PS5, you told me it was for that reason, for when it comes out.
Yes, because I bought I bought a Steam Deck because they said it was going to release on Steam, and then they said, "Oh, it's not going to release on Steam until 1 year later." So I said, "No, I'm not missing out on this moment." And as of right now, the PS5 is actually like my main gaming source right now. I've been playing like Final Fantasy 16. All of those are originally came out on PS5. So I'm just, and Death Stranding is only for PS4, PS5. So I'm really, really excited. This was one for the gamers this year.
I'm very happy for you, and I'm very happy to see that this next year is going to be just as great for you, probably even better.
Yes, but now in terms of film goals, I was telling Savannah that part of my goals is really because I feel like I really want to see more foreign films. So my goal of this year is to see and explore more foreign films. We now have a movie subscription. So
we do, we're coming up.
I'm excited to kind of explore stuff on there. I also really, my favorite directors, I want to pick 3 or 4 favorite directors, and I want to watch all of their films. Because I definitely have like immediately to mind John Carpenter, David Lynch, Lars von Trier, all of those. Like, I want to pick a few more directors and just slowly start going through their filmography from beginning to where they currently are. It's just something I'm like, you know what? Yeah, if I say they're my favorite director, damn, I should say that I've seen every film, before I give them that label.
I gotcha. I feel you for that.
So probably for me, it'll be David Lynch, Lars von Trier, John Carpenter, Rainier Werner Fassbinder, which he has a lot of films, so that's going to take me a while. And then, who else? Kieslov Kieslowski is probably the 5 directors I want to see all of their work this year.
I got to think about mine.
I feel like Korean films for you have really like been working well for you. I feel like maybe, and even like shows, like I remember like one of our favorites, which sadly hasn't come back on the air, was Kingdom.
Yes.
That zombie Korean show that was like absolutely insane. But if you want to join me on the journey, bestie, you're more than welcome to.
Maybe I'll pick a few. Yeah, maybe I'll pick a few. We'll see.
All right. Well, that is it for our 2023 wrap up. Thank you guys so much for joining and being a part of this. Next time you hear us, we are actually going to be going through and doing our 100 episode. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be really fun. It's essentially, instead of a 2023 recap, it's going to be a Purple Noon recap. It'll be a great walk down memory lane for the past 100 episodes, which is very crazy to say. But thank you as always to our Patreon members. We have Manny, Homeboy James, we have Sensei David, Danny Boy, Buddy Ryan. Thank you guys so much for being a part of our Patreon, and we really appreciate the support. And when you guys hear us next time, it'll be time for episode 100. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.